Hello there, good afternoon, and thank you for still staying with us here on Channel One Television. My name is Nanatufo Boateng. Now, news coming in now is that His Excellency, the President, John Dramani Mahama, has made some appointments to deputy ministerial positions. So far, 13 of them released. Remember, the President has already made 42 nominations, which nominations have gone through the approval process, having survived the vetting by the appointments committee and being approved by Parliament. A good number of them have been sworn in and have already assumed office as ministers of a state. We are waiting the swearing in of the remainder of that number. The President, after the last batch of nominations, had 18 more to go. And just this afternoon, we've received a list of 13 deputy minister nominees. Okay, so clearly the President still has about 5 more nominations to make. So who are these persons who have been designated or nominated to serve as deputy ministers? We'll take you through them. Let me read to you the letter from the presidency, which of course is on the letterhead of the presidency communications, dated Wednesday, February 5, 2025, titled President Mahama Nominates Deputy Ministers. President John Dramani Mahama has, in accordance with Articles 78.1 and 79.1 of the Constitution, submitted the names of the underlisted to Parliament through the Speaker for prior approval to serve as deputy ministers. And the list is as follows. Ministry of Finance, Thomas Nyako Ampem. Thomas Nyako Ampem for Ministry of Finance. Then you have Ministry of the Interior, Ebenezer Oklete Telabi, Ministry of the Interior. You have Ernest Broja Jemfi going to the Ministry of Defense. Ernest Broja Jemfi for the Ministry of Defense. You have Ministry of Education, Clement Abbas Apak. Clement Abbas Apak for the Ministry of Education as Deputy Minister. There's Ministry of Energy and Green Transition. So for the Deputy Ministerial position, you have Richard Jan Mensah. He will be deputizing John Jinapo, who is the substantive Minister for Energy and Green Transition. Then when we go to Roads and Highways, you have Al-Hassan Shaibu Suhini. Al-Hassan Shaibu Suhini. He has been designated or nominated to serve as Deputy Minister at the Roads and Highways Ministries. And so he will be deputizing Kwame Gavins Agboja, the Adaklu MP, who's been appointed Minister for Roads and Highways. The Office of the Attorney General and Ministry of Justice, quite an interesting one. You have Justice Shremsai to serve as the Deputy Minister of Justice and Attorney General. Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, Yusuf Suleimana is going to Lands and Natural Resources as Deputy Minister, and so he will be working with the Honorable Emmanuel Amakufibua as Deputy Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. Ministry of Local Government, Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs, who will be deputizing Ahmed Ibrahim, and this is Ritana Odele Sowa. Ritana Odele Sowa is going to the Ministry of Local Government, Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs as a Deputy Minister. That is pending approval by Parliament and subsequent swearing in by His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. Let's take you to the Ministry of Works and Housing and Water Resources. So the Ministry for Works, Housing and Water Resources, Gisela Tete Agbotui. She is going to deputize or going to serve as a Deputy Minister at the Ministry of Works, Housing and Water Resources. Then we'll go to Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts. You have Yusuf Isaka Jaja. So Yusuf Jaja is heading to the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts to serve as a Deputy Minister. For Food and Agriculture, a known name, John Kofi Seto Dumelo. John Kofi Seto Dumelo, appointed Deputy Minister Designate for Food and Agriculture. And then the last one, or the final, last but not the least, on this particular list, remember there's still some 5 more to go. If we are to go by the 60 threshold, that the president promised Ghanaians. The final one will be the Ministry of Trade, Agribusiness and Industry, and this goes to Samson Ahi of Bodi. Samson Ahi of Bodi. Now, the president has also nominated Lydia Lamisi Akanvariba as Minister of State for Public Sector Reforms. And so if we add this to the 13 deputy ministers, it brings the number of nominations to 14. And so actually, the president has just 4 more to go. Just 4 more to go. And so this also adds to the number of functional ministers, and that brings that number to 4. Mind you, already there's the Minister of State in charge of special initiatives. Then there's a Minister of State in charge of climate change and sustainability. And then there's a Minister of State in charge of government communications in the person of Felix Kwasi Ofosu. And now we have the nomination of Lydia Lamisi Akanvariba as Minister of State in charge of public sector reforms. So this is not necessarily a sector ministry, but a functional ministry. And we have Madame Lydia Lamisi Akanvariba heading there, pending her approval. And so 14 actual nominations made in this particular list. 13 of them deputy ministers going to deputize their substantive ministers in their various ministries. Recall that all of these 13 deputy ministers are going to specific sectors, all right? So they are going to serve as deputy ministers in specific sectors. Then there's a 14th nomination that is a functional ministry. It's a specific function that this minister will perform upon approval. She's in the person of Lydia Lamisi Akanvariba, and she is heading to a Ministry of State in charge of public sector reforms. This letter signed by Felix Kwasi Ofosu, MP, acting spokesperson to the president. All right, Fred Tete Jabano, head of current affairs production, here with us, joins me in studio so we can bring some perspective to this batch of nominations as we have seen it. We were expecting 18. Yes. President promised that 60 ministers. Then he reduced the number of ministries from 30 to 23. We saw I won't say abolition, but we saw the scrapping of some ministries. We saw the realignment of some ministries. And so there was a reduction of ministries from 30 to 23. And then the president so far had made 42 nominations or appointments. All 42 have gone through the vetting process by the appointments committee and subsequently have been approved. There's a number of them. I'll get to that number who have been sworn in and have already taken office and hit the ground running. And so we're expecting, based on the 60 threshold that the president gave us, we're expecting some 18 nominations more to be made. This afternoon, we've received a list of 14. This 14 has 13 deputy ministers and 1 minister of state in charge of public enterprise, public sector reforms. So that's a functional ministry. But we want to look at the individuals whose names have come up. Which one jumps at you when you look at the list?
The first name is Thomas Ampim.
Nyako Ampim.
Yeah. He is a name which, when I saw, because you see, the finance ministry is a very important ministry.
Yes.
And looking at the appointment of Atufosin as the finance minister, you were actually looking at or debating as to who would go and support him in that particular ministry. There were views that the president might bring an outsider, somebody outside from parliament, to come support the finance minister. But he decided to go within parliament and go for a member of parliament, a sitting member of parliament. And he went for Thomas Ampim, Nyako Ampim. Thomas Nyako Ampim has, at a point in time, was part of the finance committee of parliament. He went to school in the...
He's MP for Sojaman.
Yes, MP for Sojaman. He's MP for Sojaman. At a point, he schooled in the University of Virginia, has a bit of some finance background. We haven't really seen him often when it comes to finance discussions. He's been vocal in other discussions. You hardly see him talk about finance. But when you check his background, he has a bit of some finance background. It's quite interesting, and the name which came up. Everybody was expecting a name like Isaac Adongo, who was very vocal during their time in opposition. He, alongside the current Minister of Finance, led the charge of the NDC to actually push and also criticize and raise concerns with the way the government at the time was managing the economy. So